released documents show Jeffrey Epstein ended his friendship with Bill Clinton because he thought the former president was a liar. Especially the time he said, "My wife will never murder you."
What does that do? He thinks we're dumb. If you cut everybody else's taxes and people in my income group pay the same percentage, it means we get a tax cut too.
Just when it seemed the Clinton era had been tucked away in the history books, Greg Gutfeld stepped back into the conversation with a grin and a sharp remark. What followed was more than just another political take. It was a reminder that some reputations stand the test of time, while others look very different years later. But here's what made it interesting. The timing wasn't accidental. There was a clear purpose behind it. And one particular comment sent social media into a complete frenzy.
So last night was like watching TV in Grandma's basement during a lockdown. Get a big bag of uncooked popcorn and chill as Bill Clinton lectures Donald Trump about proper conduct in the Oval Office.
At a time like this, the Oval Office should be a command center.
If you're going to federalize the troops, it needs to be when there's a huge natural disaster or when the people charged with keeping order and following the law.
Before we go any further, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Greg Gutfeld isn't known for holding back. He says exactly what's on his mind, skips the polished talking points, and doesn't give special treatment to anyone, including former presidents. So when he turned his attention to Bill Clinton, the reaction wasn't just strong, it was precise and impossible to ignore.
Last week, Hillary Clinton said there's something wrong with our justice system. It's her husband, Bill, and his crime bill from 1994, which imposed harsher sentences and bolstered police gear in response to surging violent crime. At the time, the violent crime rate was 713 per 100,000 people. That's a lot. But after the law, it halved to 368 per 100,000. Now, this might be the best thing Bill Clinton ever did.
Watching Gutfeld take apart Clinton's legacy is like watching a skilled performer hit every mark with perfect timing. Each point lands exactly where it's meant to, keeping the audience locked in from start to finish. Stay with us because what comes next is a fascinating mix of sharp humor, unexpected irony, and commentary that doesn't hold anything back.
Honestly, Bill Clinton at Epstein Island, that's as shocking as Mike Pence at church. So we saw that coming. For me, it feels like the UFO stories, right? They're always, like, for a couple of years now, it's been like a series of tantalizing hints at something else. Perhaps to keep us occupied with the morsels rather than the meat. And what's the meat? That, as Jesse might be alluding to, a larger, bigger operation that had its tentacles.
Right from the start, let's talk about the image many people had of Bill Clinton. With his easy smile, natural charm, and speeches that could win over almost any crowd, he was often seen as one of the brightest stars in American politics. For years, he carried the reputation of being the golden boy of the political world.
That he's now trashing it, claiming that it led to fuller prisons as opposed to deadlier streets.
The way it was written and implemented, we cast too wide a net. We have too many people in prison. I strongly support what she's doing, and I think any policy that was adopted when I was president in federal law that contributed to it should be changed.
That's amazing. In some, he just smeared real positive change because he hadn't yet christened every room in the White House with his DNA.
Remember that image? The feeling that Bill Clinton could do almost anything and still come out on top? For years, that reputation was carefully built, polished, and reinforced. But Gutfeld takes a different approach. He peels back the layers, puts the charm next to the facts, and lets people decide for themselves. In his view, beneath the polished speeches and presidential appearances is a familiar pattern. Big promises, tough questions left unanswered, and a remarkable ability to treat major controversies as if they were only minor setbacks.
So this is not Bill Clinton's Democratic Party. It's not even a Democratic Party. It's now a slab of left-wing populism, democratic socialism, and vile identity politics. Sanders endorses it because he helped build this grim repudiation of the most successful system in history. And Hillary's fine with it, as is sad comic Sarah Silverman, who relied on tired old jokes.
Gutfeld argues that while many remember the Clinton years as a time of economic success, The full story is more complicated. He points to policies and decisions that critics say created problems down the road, even as the media celebrated a booming economy. In his view, the gap between a public image and the reality is where the real story begins. He applies the same lens to Clinton's famous charisma, questioning whether charm sometimes helped overshadow controversies and mistakes. With a mix of humor and sharp commentary, Gutfeld highlights what he sees as the contradictions in Clinton's legacy, delivering critiques that are both entertaining and thought-provoking.
By intel agencies to hold on to power and to wield influence, right? I mean, there's so many crazy things happening in this world that's unexplained. You could point to our immigration policy, which is a mess. Everybody agrees it's a mess. No one's doing anything about it. Perhaps a lot of these insane actions are because people are forced to do things because someone has something on them. Maybe it's not, the filter isn't oppressed versus oppressor, but it's the compromiser.
Speaking of scandals, Clinton's foreign policy is full of contradictions. Gutfeld highlights the gap between polished diplomatic talk and the messy reality of intervention and crisis management. What's often praised as intelligence and control can, in his view, look like confusion behind the scenes. He uses humor to point out these inconsistencies, letting the irony speak for itself. The contrast between promises of transparency and behind-the-scenes political maneuvering is where he finds the sharpest critique, and the result is both biting and entertaining.
That it's a storm center. There's only chaos. Just one thing never changes: his determination to deny responsibility and shift the blame. The buck never stops there.
Yep, the Oval Office should be a command center. To command what? An intern to keep you company? Had to change that sentence. Let's not forget, the buck didn't stop at his desk, and neither did the screwing around.
That's where Gutfeld really works best, highlighting the gap where tension lives, almost making you feel it. Every policy mistake, every public slip, every polished media moment becomes part of a larger story he builds, blending humor, critique, and reality. His approach isn't random or purely insulting, it's structured and deliberate. He also focuses on how people remember the Clinton era. Many recall the economic growth, the charisma, and the entertainment value, but often overlook the problems, policy conflicts, and long-term issues. Gutfeld turns that selective memory into part of the joke. It's like pointing out that something remembered as high quality isn't quite what it seemed, delivered with a tone that keeps it sharp but still engaging. The contrast between big promises and uneven results is where his commentary lands hardest, and the humor comes naturally from the facts themselves.
The nature of the political animal, one who abandons life-saving principles in favor of ideological pandering meant to expand power and indulge the extreme. It's a curse of law enforcement success. Every policy that made us safer is now unneeded because we are safer. It's like a diabetic tossing his insulin once he's stabilized his blood sugar. I guess we should let muggers off with a warning or start Criminals Anonymous to help them shake their crime addiction.
What once looked impressive now becomes material for satire. Gutfeld points out moments where charm outweighed substance, where presentation outshined results, and where style often beat strategy. The result is an audience that can't help but laugh, not just at Clinton, but at a political culture that keeps rewarding image over substance. His timing is deliberate, with careful setups and payoffs that keep viewers engaged. It's not random criticism, but controlled rhythm and pacing. He also revisits the healthcare debate, often seen as a defining moment that never quite delivered. Gutfeld highlights not just the policy failure, but also the overconfidence behind it. Big promises were made about accessible healthcare for all, generating hope and national attention, yet the effort stalled in political gridlock. In his framing, Clinton comes across as someone who could command a room with ease but struggled when it came to turning vision into workable policy. The irony is clear, and Gutfeld leans into it with a comedian's sense of timing, letting the humor rise naturally from the situation itself.
Lied, which is hardly a bug in his system when you're chasing skirts instead of terrorists. Remember who was president for a month when the first World Trade Center attack took place, and who was president for over 7 years before the second one. Imagine if Clinton had focused on bin Laden instead of babes. How different would the world be? No 9/11, no Afghanistan war, all that blood and treasure expended because a guy couldn't zip it up. Is that a stretch?
And campaign promises are where it gets even clearer. Clinton's rhetorical skill was strong enough to sell almost anything, but the results didn't always match the speeches. Gutfeld doesn't just list the gaps, he turns them into a running contrast between big promises and uneven outcomes. Every confident speech about change becomes material for satire, where history often provides the punchline. His approach strips away the polished image and focuses on what's underneath: overconfidence, charm, and selective success that doesn't fully match the story told at the time. Behind the headlines were more complicated realities: policy struggles, controversies, and compromises that rarely fit the public narrative. In Gutfeld's view, the story people remember is often simplified and carefully shaped. By revisiting it with humor and critique, he turns that image into a character study filled with contradictions, inviting the audience to question what they thought they knew while still finding the irony in it all.
The Clintons renounced that bill. I renounce Bill, who seems fine returning to a time when America was twice as deadly. Bill just threw his own greatest achievement under the bus so his wife could be president.
I mean, that's
romantic.
That's charming, isn't it? It's charming. But that's the idea. They'll do whatever it takes to win. He's like, yeah, whatever I did before, throw it out as long as we can get the keys back to the White House.
There's also the gap between public image and political reality. Clinton's charisma often created the sense of control, but Gutfeld highlights the constant juggling behind it, handling crises, managing scandals, and maintaining approval in a non-stop balancing act. He contrasts the polished public persona with the disorder behind the scenes, where charm sometimes stood in for real results. Even the tech boom gets a second look. While it's often remembered as a success story, Gutfeld points to the fragility underneath: deregulation, short-term gains, and stability that didn't run very deep. What once looked like solid prosperity begins to feel more uncertain when examined closely. Through his lens, complex policy discussions turn into sharp, fast-moving commentary. He shifts easily from scandals to policy, domestic issues to foreign affairs, and personal image to public perception, keeping the critique flowing with tight pacing and clear rhythm.
Good evening, everyone. So the latest Jeffrey Epstein dump revealed compromising emails and photos, proving that Epstein had a close relationship with Bill Clinton. And this is going to destroy his reputation. And it won't look good for Bill Clinton either. It's also claimed Bill Gates got an STD from Russian escorts. No surprise, the man who...
Each transition is smooth and keeps the audience engaged. Unlike traditional political commentary that gets lost in detail, Gutfeld keeps a fast, engaging rhythm. When he revisits old scandals, he reframes them with new irony and insight. He also explores the clash between morality and political practicality, pointing to the ethical gray areas behind Clinton's public image. What looks like confidence and control becomes more complicated under scrutiny. He then turns to media strategy, where Clinton's polished messaging shaped public perception. Gutfeld looks past the surface, showing how carefully crafted narratives can blur failures and exaggerate success, shaping how history is remembered.
Who knows, could have happened anyway. But now you have Democrats rapidly blaming COVID deaths on Trump, so everything's on the table, including the waitress. Right, Chris Dodd? Sorry, no matter how much Botox you've injected, Bill Clinton lecturing anyone on conduct is hard to take with a straight face. It's like Hillary lecturing you on honesty, or CNN denying the existence of media bias, or Andrew Cuomo writing a book on how to fight COVID. Anyway, you see this picture? Take a look at Bill getting a hands-on experience from an...
And then there are the long-term consequences. Gutfeld isn't just revisiting the past. He's pointing out patterns that still echo in politics today. He connects past policy choices, crisis management, and the idea of charisma over substance to issues that continue to shape the present. The result is a mix of humor and critique that highlights how much of it still matters. His commentary pushes the audience to think about what actually lasts from a political era, while still finding space to laugh at what history has normalized. It becomes both entertainment and a kind of reflection. Even Clinton's famous charm gets re-examined. The same gestures and confident delivery that once defined his image are shown in a different light, suggesting how presentation can sometimes hide deeper problems. Each segment builds naturally on the last, layering irony and analysis in a way that feels smooth but carefully constructed.
Thursday, Bill Clinton confirmed they talked according to E! Online. The president said something along the lines of, "If that is the worst thing you've ever done, all is well." So true. Anyway, Clinton also told the singing scamp to keep an eye on his friends. I suppose Clinton is referring to those who leaked the tape of the leaking, which is what you'd expect from Bill, instead of saying, you know, Justin, you should respect those who aren't as lucky as you are, people who have to mop floors and clean kitchens for a living. Instead, Bill warns JB to pick his friends more carefully so he doesn't get caught.
By the time he returns to earlier points, the audience has a clearer view of the critique without feeling lost. The flow stays smooth, the rhythm steady, and the story remains engaging throughout. At its core, it's perception versus reality. Clinton's polished, charismatic image often clashes with the messy reality of governing. Gutfeld makes that contrast both funny and thought-provoking, turning nostalgia into a more complicated picture of success and flaws. In the end, the audience is left laughing but also reflecting on what leadership really means. For Gutfeld, politics is full of contradictions, and he turns those contradictions into a narrative that is sharp, entertaining, and hard to ignore.